Hi, everybody. My name is Paul Harvey, and I'll allow those of you of a certain age to process your rest of the story jokes, while the younger among you say, "What is he talking about?" Excuse me, I'm recovering from about 12 different colds and flus. Pastor Sue asked me to share a story with you, and I didn't realize that today was Pretzel Sunday, so I'm going to try to limit it to about 20 seconds, because pretzels are one of the most important things in the world to me. She asked me to talk for about 5 minutes, and for those who don't know me, I'm a professor over at UNH, and asking us to limit our time rambling in front of a group is challenging, but I'll do my best. The kind of genesis of this story that she asked me to share was my dog, and I thought if I was to title this little story, I would call it "A 40-Year-Old Guy, a 10-Pound Dog, and a $1,000 Electric Bill," or "Why I Missed the November 6th Finance Committee meeting," of which I'm a part. And now Pastor Sue is calling my bluff and asking me to tell a story in front of all of you. So, as I mentioned, I'm a member of the Finance Committee here at St. John's, and we meet the first Monday of every month, and my track record of attendance had slipped a bit. Things just kept coming up, mostly work-related, on that first Monday of the month for like 4 out of 5 months in a row or something. But in November, I could actually make it, and I was happy about that. We meet at 7 o'clock on Monday evenings. 5 o'clock, 4:30, I thought, I'm going to be here. Sometime around noon the next day, I realized, oh geez, I didn't go, did I? Reason was, I was at the vet with my dog at 4:30-ish on that Monday, and for what I thought was a fairly routine thing, but they found a growth of sorts in her mouth, the dog's mouth, and the vet kind of had that look about her. Said, this could be a benign health thing that's okay. It's common in some breeds, but not your breed. She's a little Maltese poodle blend of some sort. I don't really know what she is. And she just kind of had that tone that said, we'll hope for the best, but, well, we'll just hope for the best. It's all we can really do. So that kind of threw me into a bit more of a tailspin than I would have anticipated. And it took a week to get the diagnosis back on that, and it was kind of a bleak 7 days, if you will. Although we didn't plan this, coordinate it with this week, the light and darkness that we're talking about today really was kind of fitting. Like I'm sure a number of you I've battled, though I only recently figured out what it was, depression-type issues. And I would refer to these spells as the darkness. And if you're familiar with these types of things, it's not what a lot of people think of sitting around being sad. It's more like being, in my case, a happy person who's consistently haunted by the ghost of Christmas past. You just sit there and dwell on every regret you have, everything you feel guilty about, and it's not a pleasant thing. Thanks to various fortuitous things, including a wonder drug called Lexapro, I'm not so familiar with that darkness anymore, but that 1 week, it was back in full force, and I couldn't, always trying to figure out why. And as is often the case, the trigger event the reaction seems completely out of proportion to the trigger event. This can't be because of, my dog might be ill. There's got to be more to it than that. Then that following Monday morning, I get a call from the vet, actually a few minutes before they opened, and the vet, you could hear there was kind of a shaking almost in her voice, and I took that to be a bad sign. She said, it's benign, she's healthy, it's nothing to worry about, and you could tell she wanted to say, I can't believe it, but she was kind of holding that back to the best she could. Now, I've been going to that vet for about almost 9 years now, so they know my story, and I think there's a bit of attachment to the dog. First, because she's like the dream patient of a vet. She just sits there and does whatever you want to do, she just takes it. But they also know our backstory, that she was a rescue dog, and she had been found abandoned in a trailer park in Alabama, which I know sounds really cliche, but that's where she was found. And I was living here in New Hampshire. So how did I come to meet this dog? Was through the website petfinder.com, and if you've ever been to that website, you probably have a dog or cat or something because of it. It's quite powerful. But I kept going to this website thinking, it would be nice to have a dog. I wasn't looking for a dog in Alabama, but every time I searched, this one dog kept coming up top of the list, and I said, okay, well, I'll look into it. Next thing you know, I'm making arrangements to have this dog sent up from Alabama. And so this was in 2009, and it was a time where things were good, but I was living by myself, dealing with occasional waves of the darkness. And I noticed that a lot of that just got better once I had this dog. And looking back in hindsight, I think this light and dark metaphor is quite fitting, that she was in a dark place, trailer park in Alabama, abandoned, and I was in a bit of a dark place, and I think we brought light to each other by way of her being rescued from her situation and her being what I guess you could call something of a flashlight in the darkness, that she's not a cure-all, but I noticed whenever I was around my dog, I felt better. So when I got the good news, one of my three things I guess happened. One is that darkness immediately lifted, and I could no longer deny that that was the cause of it. Second, I realized, geez, I never told the finance committee why I wasn't there on Monday. Maybe I should follow up with them. So I did by way of email, and I mentioned as an aside, I'd like to contribute, out of gratitude, $1,000 to St. John's, over and above the amount that my wife and I tried to tithe. And that was that, but I kind of wondered a bit to myself, why was that my reaction? Why was there a financial, it felt like I didn't really even think about it. Just said to my wife, hey, I think we should give $1,000 to the church, out of gratitude. Feels like prayers were answered here. I said, yeah, I agree. But we kind of talked about it, and why that response? And again, something that completely wasn't planned, but that video that we just watched and things of that nature, the whole notion of tithing in general, I think connects with me in part of the way it does because it's a way of spreading light to those who need it. And they all but said that in that video, so I don't have to quite enumerate that the way I thought I might. But this dog of mine came to me by way of at least 3 charitable organizations. And churches, other charitable institutions do similar work. They bring light to people that would otherwise not have it. And by tithing and through offerings, you perpetuate that light. And I think we all benefit by living in a world that has more light as opposed to less light. So I can't say I really thought through that logic, but in hindsight, kind of thinking back on it, I think that was really my kind of subconscious motivating factor, is an appreciation, a renewed appreciation for the benefits of charitable work that it had in my life for almost 9 years now with my dog, and how that is just a teeny tiny little example of the bigger picture of how that type of charitable giving and charitable work that results from it brings light to a lot of people. So just a quick plug, you've heard people up here talking about tithing for the last year or so. We've talked about it quite a bit in the Finance Committee, and my wife and I are new to tithing as well. It's taken a bit of adjustment on our part. There's no bill collectors that come after you if you fall behind on your tithing, which we have. I have kind of pushed the idea of forming a militant wing of the Finance Committee, but so far it's not resonating too well. But nonetheless, and myself, it's not what I teach now, but my undergraduate degree was in finance, and those of us with finance degrees also need help sometimes, keeping our financial house in order. And we found that tithing, in a way, because there's no bill collectors coming after us, we have to be self-disciplined about it. It imposes some financial discipline on ourselves. And that's been a recurring theme in the Finance Committee, yet another unplanned thing, the certificate that Pastor Sue just talked about, having paid 100% of our church dues and balancing the budget this year. A lot of good things come from that. So we've been talking at the Finance Committee how we can help others, whether tithing is in your plans or not, have that financial peace, so to speak. And one of the ways that we're looking to do that is by offering a program called Financial Peace University, based on some of the teachings, if you will, maybe not the right word, but trainings of a guy named Dave Ramsey, who you might be aware of. I hear on the radio and things like that. So the Finance Committee and Wendy Cloutier, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the last name, are taking the lead on that, and we'll ask you to keep an eye out for announcements about that program that we'll be offering to anyone who's interested. It's not a why you should tithe program. It's a here's how to achieve financial peace in your life through budgeting, through an understanding of how money works, and the benefits of doing so, one of which, in my experience, has been a greater ability to give charitably to spread that light around. Thank you.